Hello, welcome to Crime Bytes, the show where we talk about some truly bizarre and disturbing crime cases. My name is Liz, and today is True Crime Tuesday. So, happy July. I love July, and I'm working on putting together a summer, or now it's becoming an end of summer series because, well, all these wild cases keep coming up that I just can't help but get into. So yes, that part 2 I was working on will be next week or the one after now, because I couldn't stop just looking into and writing about this one. Then this morning I heard about a different one that people will be crazy. But today's case has been closed, technically. But people are still asking for the decision to be re-examined, and I completely agree, but we'll get into that as we go on. So we're going to start our story today in Lumber River State Park in Robeson County, North Carolina. It boasts some pretty lovely scenery, as you can see. They have amenities for things like camping, canoeing, kayaking, fishing, picnicking, hiking, stuff like that. It's that season up here in Massachusetts as well, and there's just something so lovely about just losing yourself in nature. I mean, usually lovely. Sometimes it can be eerie. I fortunately never had anything really crazy happen to me on any of my walks in the woods. And after some of the stories you hear, Anyhow, this park has 2 access points that are located roughly an hour from one another, so you can get yourself pretty secluded inside of this park if you so choose. On April 27th, 2024, a man was making the most of the day by the lake, taking in the scenery and doing a little fishing. As he was fishing, he started hearing some disturbing sounds. It sounded like someone was crying. He listened a little more, kind of uncertain about what to do or what exactly he was hearing, but before he could collect his thoughts, what sounded like a gunshot rang out, and the crying stopped. He would kind of look around. He found a lady's fanny pack with $500 and a license that said Mica Miller on it. There was also a Bible in the belongings. There wasn't any sign of anyone, though, so he kind of kept going, at which point he ended up running into a police officer and showed them what he found and told them what he had heard. As the man was talking to the officers, a second call from the Lumber River State Park would come in from a kayaker who would report that there was a body in the river. So let's take a second and listen to the first call that would come in to 911 from Lumber River State Park on April 27th, 2004.
Robeson County 911, what's the address of your emergency?
Hi, are you able to trace the location of my phone?
Let me see. You don't know where you're at?
A national park.
Where's the park located at?
In Fair Bluff.
Let's see.
I have my location on, I think, on my phone.
They're just so low energy here that I almost can't take it. Like, what's the emergency? Let's keep listening.
Find my phone is on. I just did my my location.
Okay, I'm showing, hold on one second. I don't think you are in Robeson County. Yeah, the Lumber River State Park. And
Yeah, that's where I am.
okay. Tell me what's happened.
I'm about to kill myself, and I just want my family to know where to find me.
Okay, ma'am. Just listen to what I'm saying, okay? Let me make sure I got the exact location where you're at, okay? Just 1 minute.
So this is just sad and eerie, and it doesn't sit right. Like, why would you call and then not say anything else? You could leave a note, you could call your family, you could do a bunch of different things, but you called 911 almost as if you were in a trance and calmly said that you were going to kill yourself, then hung up. Why would anyone do that? We'll come back to this, but the police would respond and find Mica dead with a gun in the water near where they found her body. It seemed like a pretty closed case, but is it? Let's meet Mica Miller. Mica was born on March 7th of 1994 in Wichita, Kansas. Then she would move to Myrtle Beach in 2008, where she would meet her future husband, J.P. Miller. So, poor Mica, because either directly or indirectly, J.P. Miller would be the end of her. Unfortunately, in this case, literally. J.P. Miller is a narcissistic, sex-addicted pastor. I'm sorry, he is. Thankfully, no longer a pastor, though. At least not at the moment. It's a little unclear if he will be able to go back to being a pastor. I guess that will depend on him as well as the outcome of these issues. But he is a sex-addicted, abusive son of a bitch who, as of right now, is trying to pull his life back together after losing his beloved wife. Or that's what he would tell you, and he can be quite convincing. Men like him are. And yes, if you're doing the math correctly, Mica was only 14 when she first met JP. Let's start with that fun fact. I'm going to back up the statements I just made, which are simply my humble opinion after getting sucked into this case. Apparently, part of JP putting his life back together is suing anyone who is talking about things that he has said and done. What is it about freaking crooked pastors instead of just saying I messed up, going after people who are calling them out? It's definitely a tactic. But yeah, we're going to talk about the public things that JP has done and some of the private things that people who have been very close to him have alleged as well. So when Mica was 14, her family moved to Myrtle Beach and started attending the Solid Rock Church. At 14, Mica would start attending the church's youth group, which was pastored by none other than J.P. Miller. The two became close fast. There were a few issues, though. The first being that JP was 14 years older than Mica, and that she was a minor, and that he was married with 5 children of his own, along with being the youth pastor. You get the picture. Things shouldn't have happened, and it's reported that they didn't at first, but many people, Mica included, would allege that JP groomed her from the day that he met her, if not closely thereafter. I would have to agree. So JP was married with 5 children, and Mica would end up getting married herself to a fellow church member, and JP would actually officiate their wedding. Then he would become this guy's best friend and hire Mica as his secretary, church worship leader, and his kid's babysitter. And because he could sort of make her hours and keep tabs on her, their already questionable relationship started crossing lines. When JP's wife and Mica's husband found out that they were sleeping together, they both decided to end their marriages. This is how well JP took it.
You okay? Huh? You okay? What's the matter? Huh? What's the matter?
I switched my medication. Makes me go crazy.
Yeah. Is somebody helping you?
They said that boy's coming to get me.
Oh, okay.
I thought I was going to see Jesus.
Okay. But you got Mark coming?
Somebody called him, I think.
Okay.
I feel like he had survived me.
Hey, I'm sorry. That delights me a little bit. Is that bad? So everyone gets divorced and JP and Mica get married. This is how she would describe their marriage. Since the day we became husband and wife, I have been abused in every way I can think of. Emotionally, sexually, spiritually, financially, and physically. He has harassed me physically and electronically with letters, phone calls, emails, and texts, hacking my emails, hacking my personal Facebook, and impersonating me. Using my stolen phone to send texts and emails out to church members pretending to be me, texting friends and family saying that I am sleeping with teenagers from our church and showing up in person at places around town. To having installed 3 different tracking devices on my vehicle. That poor woman. Apparently, the sex addiction was so bad that he would do things like take his wife out for dinner, then all nonchalant be like, let's go get a prostitute for dessert, and then make her watch. How sick. And I mean, not to judge from the sound of it, she wasn't into it. And if she was, that'd be a whole different story. But from the sound of it, she wasn't. And just the level of betrayal. People can be so broken emotionally, and it can lead to devastating consequences. If you do find yourself in a similar situation, I strongly encourage you to seek help, find a group, or even a person that you can trust, because really, life is too short to live like that. Anyhow, let's get back to the case. All right. JP using church donations to fund his prostitution addiction, because that's how he had a salary, right? Apparently, his use of church funds is under question, and I truly hope that's looked into much further. So Mica and JP married in 2018. Then in October of 2023, the couple would file for divorce. Then 4 months later, on February 8th of 2024, Mica would be involuntarily hospitalized for 48 hours because JP was her power of attorney. She was apparently diagnosed with bipolar disorder and was on medication for it, with someone having the power of attorney over her. And I'm sorry, but that's shady as f***. And there's no way she needed someone to be the power of attorney over her. Even if she needed psychological support, I mean, who wouldn't around JP? Anyways, when she was released, she was not given her purse or her car keys, so she was stranded. Then on the 21st of February, Mica would attempt to stand up for herself. She would attempt to file a report that her involuntarily admittance for care was fraudulent and that JP stole her car while she was there. She basically went down there because he tricked her, saying that they could change it so that he wasn't her power of attorney anymore. And when she got there, they committed her. The nerve of this man. Anyhow, the officers would reach out to JP, who would tell them all about her mental health, and no charges would be filed as the car was considered to be marital property still, and therefore JP couldn't steal it. Then, just roughly 3 weeks later, on March 11th, Mica would contact the police again. This time, she would report that her tire was slashed. An investigation would show that it had a deflation device attached to it. I'm sorry, couldn't this be considered attempted murder? Later that day, JP would approach her at a gas station and she would pull out her phone to attempt to record him, but he would just drive away. Then, when she went to get her car serviced, JP showed up there and the mechanic would tell her that she had a tracker hidden in her car. Mica went straight back to the police, as did JP, because they observed him and then he sped away. But then on March 13th, a member of Solid Rock Church would report Mica to the police for embezzling money from her 501c3 Dare to Care, which did missionary work in Africa. The person who reported this said $1,119 was transferred to her account. The police would later state that there was insufficient evidence to press charges. On March 26th, a bench trial was held to decide if Mica would receive the restraining order she so desperately needed against JP. To receive a restraining order, at least in South Carolina, you need to establish a pattern of harassment. In order to do this, you need to have at least 2 police reports. Mica went in with 3, including evidence that he was stalking her. And one of them was the report from when he put a tracker in her car and a razor in her tire. Because he did that too. He put a razor and a deflation device. But did she get her restraining order? No, she didn't. And the case was dismissed without prejudice. Why? I'm not sure, but Freedom of Information inquiries about the documents related to this are being denied. So there's that. What do you guys think about that? What would they have to gain from not giving her a restraining order when it was clear that she desperately needed it? Now we come to April 27th, the day Mica passes. Here is what we know for sure. At 10:13 a.m., Mica would be seen on her Ring camera leaving her residence in Myrtle Beach. She arrives back at 11, then leaves again at 11:38. From 12:12 to 12:34, Mica is seen at Doc's pawn shop where she purchases a weapon and ammunition for it. At 1:06, she was seen traveling on Highway 501, and at 1:27, she stops at 41 Grocery and Grill, where she buys gas and a drink. Then at 2:54, 911 would receive the call that we listened to from Mica. At 3:50, officers would arrive at Lumber River State Park, where they were approached by the man who had found her belongings and had heard her crying before the shots rang out. Then at 4:23, 911 received that second call and someone had discovered Mica's body while he was fishing in his kayak. And at 5:30, the chief detectives would arrive at that location. At 7:11, the gun was located in the water and it all matched up to the cases and receipts from the gun that Mica had purchased at the pawn shop. They would confirm that JP and his girlfriend were at a sporting event in Charleston. He was there the day before and during her death. What I want to know is if it's possible he snuck on over or something in between. I'm sure they checked into all of that. There is also quite a bit of buzz about JP's lawyer, who has a boat and property near that state park. There are a lot of theories buzzing around about what might have happened if she didn't actually kill herself, and we'll talk about at least one more of those in a little bit. So, the day after Mica passed, JP preached a sermon. A whole sermon, without saying anything about his wife until the very end. I'm going to play a clip of that now.
And I'm going to make an announcement, and after the announcement, I'm going to ask that you leave church quietly and don't talk about the announcement here in the building, please, if you can, so y'all can stand to your feet. before I make the announcement, I also want to say that my request to you is that you will continue to come to church and serve and give for the next, little bit. 'Cause I don't want to have. I'm taking a little bit of a break, and I don't want to have to worry about the church. My break may be a few days, a few weeks. I don't know. I got a call late last night. My wife has passed away, and it was self-induced, and it was up in North Carolina, and we're gonna have a funeral for her next Sunday here at 3 p.m. And so it's all I can. Yeah, I'm just kind of going on adrenaline right now. So y'all pray for me and my kids and everybody. And she wasn't. Y'all knew that she wasn't well mentally, and that she needed her medicine that was hard to get to her. And so I'm sure there'll be more detail.
I mean, let's give him the benefit of the doubt for a second, because that's fair. I mean, it's off, but maybe he needed to wait until the end of the sermon so that he wouldn't crack. That's understandable, but it's still off. And then let's watch this clip of him giving her eulogy.
Of course, we know she's not here and in heaven, and she's worshiping and enjoying, and probably hadn't even had time to look down here yet. But I got this lay next to her body and spent time with her body about 4 times this week, and each time it still didn't hit me. I thought she was going to wake up. I even tried to raise her from the dead one time this week, and that morning actually I went to the mall later. She had bought me this dog tag, and the chain broke, so I went to the mall to get it fixed. And I saw a female about 20-30 feet in front of me, and she was wearing one of Mica's dresses, and she had the same tattoo Mica has on her arm and the exact same hair. And out of just instinct, I screamed, "Mica!" And the girl turned around, and it was one of her sisters. And I thought I raised her from the dead. She's alive, But I can't wait to see her again one day.
If you look at the way he talked about her after she passed, it was almost as if they were never getting divorced. Like, that little blip didn't happen. She was a devoted wife, but she had mental issues. But she was beautiful on the inside and out. But I couldn't trust her and had to have her committed. Come on, man. Get your story or stories straight. I mean, get it that people are complicated and have good and bad times, but just the way that he says things, it's like forced, or he's following whatever he's throwing out there to shine the best light on himself. Whether it's, oh, look at his loving wife I had, or poor me, she's gone, but she killed herself. She was deranged. Sir, come on. Okay. On May 1st, the leaders of Solid Rock Church would file a police report stating that the church was being harassed in the wake of basically the scandal. Then on May 3rd, a probate court would name Mica's sister, Sierra, as the special administrator of Mica's estate. Then on the 10th, he would file a counter petition. On the 5th, JP would hold a memorial service for Mica. Her family would hold one for her as well at Myrtle Beach during the same time. On May 6th, the medical examiner would determine the cause of death to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound, specifically stating that it was not to the back of the head. In spite of all these questions, the medical examiner ruled Mica's death as a suicide, which, sorry, but I'm wondering, seriously, if anyone involved in the investigation attends Solid Rock Church, and how many of them. I'm just wondering. Things just don't add up, and not enough people seem to care. At least not enough people involved in investigating do. So let's take a quick look at that medical examination. They did not perform an autopsy because foul play was not suspected, and she was cremated the day before her funeral, so they can't go back and check or anything. People are saying that JP rushed this. He's saying it happened on a normal timeline. I can see both sides here, except for all the other stuff about JP. Anyhow, they didn't do a full toxology workup on her either, so they can't say if she was drugged or not. I mean, they can say she didn't have any drugs or alcohol, but what about the bipolar drugs? There's so many theories flying around, and I think it's unfortunate that we can't rule things out through an autopsy at this point. The more we know, the better to either end. And thinking on this further, they had 6 days to perform the autopsy. The family was basically apparently tricked into signing cremation papers so that they could see her body, and that feels off too, like so many things about this case. If people were talking so much and the body was around for 6 days, why not perform an autopsy? Yet another example of the ball being dropped in the favor of JP. First the restraining order, then the autopsy, but there's more. JP was actually pardoned in 2022 for a crime that he was convicted for in 1999. Want to guess what he did? Type A in the comments if you think he freaked out and punched a waitress. Type B in the comments if you think he assaulted one of his sex workers. And type C in the comments if you think he ran down a woman with his truck intentionally. I mean, I don't think any of these deserve a pardon for any reason. But if you type C, he ran down a woman with his truck, you would be correct. So in 1998, there was a flooding in the area, and it was bad enough where they were closing streets and people were sandbagging their houses. So JP, obviously the rules don't apply to JP. JP just ignores the road signs and carries on driving. And he's driving somewhat recklessly when 19-year-old Jennifer Garland tried to slow him down and kind of let him know the roads were closed. It didn't sit right with him. So he went home, got himself in a different truck, put tape over his license plate, and sped back to continue his shenanigans. And when Jennifer came out to confront him this time, he drove right into her, knocking her on the hood of his truck and kept on going. A witness had to stop him and pull her off the car. As a result, Jennifer suffered severe and painful injuries that she still deals with to this day. JP would receive a 4-year suspended sentence, which turned into 3 years of probation, 500 hours of community service, and some court fees. So my question is, why would he be pardoned? Why? For me, it's the multiple things going on in JP's favor legally when they clearly should not, that add to the overall feel of this case. Then there's the fact that Mica was trying to divorce JP and put her life back together. Multiple sources state that she was actively making plans and trying so hard to push forward. Why would she end her life? I mean, because JP was making it impossible, maybe? If she did end her life, that's why. Sources also state that she told them, and by them, I mean quite a few sources, including her family members, that if she ended up with a bullet in her brain, it was JP. JP's first wife, Allison, would say that one time when she picked up their kids, there were holes in the walls, doors off the hinges, and this part really bothers me. There were negative affirmations about Mica taped all over the walls. Seriously? Allison filed for sole custody on May 28th of the 2 children that she shares with JP who are not adults yet. Not only that, she wants all contact suspended with JP until he completes a parental fitness exam. The judge granted the emergency request on May 29th with a hearing that occurred on June 6th. The records from this hearing were sealed. So if anyone knows what the results were of that hearing, feel free to drop them in the comments. And if I find out, I'll drop them myself. I truly hope he has some space from these kids. Let's branch off briefly. There's too much to look at in this case, but we're going to touch briefly on some more of JP's history to give you more of a feel for him. His father actually was also a pastor, a very successful one, depending on how you look at that word. He certainly was financially successful and even had a Bible college and TV show. Spiritually, though, he was lacking severely. There was a whole story behind this man as well, but the short version is that he was accused of sexual misconduct on multiple times, multiple occasions, multiple people. He was also convicted for forcing international students to work for little or no payment at his Bible college. JP would also report that he was sexually abused by his father, which is really just so terrible. So looking at his father, it's a little easier to understand JP. And it's very sad that he was abused as well, but instead of seeking serious help, he is just still out there abusing whoever will let him. Anyways, like I mentioned before, many theories are being thrown around about this case because it's just not sitting correctly with so many people. One popular theory is that the 911 call was made using AI. Honestly, the whole call is eerie. I don't know, maybe someone who works 911 could tell me, but I don't think a lot of people who are going to actually kill themselves typically call 911 first. Doesn't make sense. The second is how flat her voice is. No emotion. She even does some takes or pauses or just kind of tells the operator what's going on without answering a question. Also, the fun fact that JP's attorney is an AI attorney, or he deals with AI. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but it seems key or helpful in supporting this theory. So let's have a listen again with that in mind.
Robeson County 911, what's the address of your emergency?
Hi, are you able to trace the location of my phone?
Let me see. You don't know where you're at?
In National Park.
Where's the park located at?
In Fair Bluff.
Let's see.
I have my location on, I think, on my phone. Find my phone is on. I just did my my location.
Okay, I'm showing, hold on one second. I don't think you are in Robeson County. Are you at the Lumber River State Park?
Yeah, that's where I am.
Okay. Tell me what's happened.
I'm about to kill myself, and I just want my family to know where to find me.
Okay, ma'am. Just listen to what I'm saying, okay? Let me make sure I got the exact location where you're at, okay? Just 1 minute.
I don't know. I thought the call was off before I heard this theory, and I'm not going to say that's what I think happened. Could he have forced her to record it, forced her to make the call, used her voice through AI to have that come out? Why didn't she have any emotion? Was she drugged? Was she actually alone? There are so many questions, and there are just not enough answers still, and there may never be, which is unfortunate. There's another interesting coincidence that occurred with the woman who J.P. Miller is now seeing. Surprise, surprise. So apparently, J.P. is now dating his youth group leader, Susie Skinner. Her husband was a paraplegic who drowned in a local swimming pool. Camera footage shows him drowning alone, but he was apparently meeting someone to play chess with that day. And no one was on the camera footage, but he literally went in there saying he was meeting someone, and he was found by the women's aerobic team, not whoever he was meeting. Shady. Oh, and a few days before this accident, allegedly, Christopher Skinner had asked JP to leave his wife and his family alone. Let's look at one more quote from JP. He said, "When someone hurts me, I try to hurt them back rather than forgive. And instead of me forgiving you, I just attack and try and cause pain." Sir, I'm pretty sure that's not what the Bible says about forgiveness. I'll leave you with another what if. What if JP lured Mica to the lake and had her buy the gun for him as one last favor, which is allegedly something he did with his church members because he couldn't buy them himself, because of his record. We already know he lured her to the mental hospital and had her committed that way, or to meet his lawyer maybe, and leave the gun with him. At this point, this poor girl would want to do anything to just get him to leave her alone. So maybe she thought it was worth a shot. What do you guys think? I mean, she Googled state parks near me before going there, but even that could have been part of the instructions. There's just so much that could have happened, but without any more proof, the case will probably remain closed as is, and over time, that hashtag justice for Mica will die down. And that's a shame, because at the very best, I would say she killed herself because of JP's constant psychological abuse, if it wasn't something way more sinister. Why did she specifically say bullet to the brain was something that he threatened her with? And if so, why would she choose that way to end her life? So many questions. Anyhow, guys, I am really hoping to be able to do some sort of part 2 for you in the near future where some sort of justice is done beyond JP losing his role of pastor, if he even does, of the Solid Rock Church, which I would argue should have happened when he basically kicked out his board and said he was taking control of the church when he refused to go to therapy for his sex addiction. But that happened, and well, at least he isn't a pastor right now. And thank Christ, I feel comfortable saying there is a special place in hell for people like JP. And if I don't get to do the part 2 that I want to, I have an eerie feeling that I'll be back with a different sad story involving J.P. Miller. And let's close out this topic with a video of Mica that she posted on her Facebook shortly before her passing.
I just want to tell you what a lot of people have told me lately and reminded me, because I think I forgot. I knew, but I pushed it in the back of my head just because of my situation. But you are the bride of Christ. Before anybody else's bride, male or female, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what gender you are. Abuse is abuse. And you are the bride of Christ. And my Bible says that he took all the abuse you could think of for you. Jesus took it all for you. So you don't have to stay in a abusive relationship. God hates divorce, but why? According to everybody I've asked and the scriptures that I've found, it's because it hurts people. But does abuse hurt people? How do you think God feels about that?
You can just see the inner struggle and how she's almost trying to talk herself up or into leaving JP. Like, she's convincing herself that she won't be a bad person for leaving the man abusing her. Poor woman. But as always, let's try to end today on a more positive note. Mica's story is inspiring the reawakening of a bill in South Carolina, which would be renamed as Mica's Bill. It's a coercive concern bill, which would criminalize patterns like J.P. Miller's patterns. Patterns of behavior that intimidate and isolate a person. Patterns like putting things like tracking devices into people's cars. Patterns like stalking and sending harassing messages. This has the potential to get dicey, but overall it sounds like a positive thing. At the very least, it would sort of be a message. You can't freaking behave this way. Because JP getting away with whatever he is actually getting away with, it's not good. How bad is it really? But if he does completely get away with whatever he's getting away with, killing her directly or indirectly, we're sending a message that's okay. And I'm going to stop now. I hope you all have a fantastic week. And I've got that part 2 coming next week, or that wild story I heard about this morning. I'm not sure which one yet. I have to sit down and see if there's enough to do an episode on that one. We'll see. But I hope you all have a great week, and please stay safe out there.